Hello everyone, my name is Pat. Welcome to my channel. Today I will be talking about all the books that I read for the month of February. Just like the month of January, I read quite a few books for this month, a lot more than I usually do. I read a total of 13 books this month and I'm very excited. I had another really good reading month, so I'm looking forward to talking about all these books. And because I do tend to ramble a lot and go into tangents, without further ado, let's get started, okay? Alright, so I have my notes here. Let's start with the first book that I finished for this month, and that is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. This is a YA fantasy / horror standalone novel that is pretty popular around Bookstagram and BookTube, and I did hear some mixed reviews about it, and I rated this personally a 3 stars. I did like the setting, like the overall atmosphere of it was very creepy, very horror-ish, gothic vibes, and I really enjoyed. If you didn't know, this is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, a really dark retelling of 12 Dancing Princesses. And in here we are following the story, well, our main lead is Annalise still, and in this story they are princesses in a kingdom where each of her sisters are slowly dying, or one by one dying throughout the years. And it's following her as she tries to discover what it is, or why is it that they are cursed, and the consequences or the circumstances of the death of her sisters. And we follow her as she explores that and finds this door to a different world and this ball, and her sisters are trying to save her sisters. Again, the overall vibes is very nice. Definitely gave a really creepy horror type of vibes, but it felt very fast-paced in terms of it felt underdeveloped. Like, it's the characters, I didn't have enough time to really care about the sisters. Obviously it's horrible that her sisters are dying, and a lot of them died by accidents, like really gruesome accidents, and that's really horrible. But we didn't really get the chance to really learn about each of the sisters. And granted, there are a lot of, there's like 13 of them, 12 of them. So yeah, I get we are not going to be able to really focus on any one or all of the sisters, but I've just felt like even with Annalise, with us following her perspective, I felt like we didn't really get much from her. And of course the romance felt undone, like it's not fully formed. And so when I listened to this in audiobook, it felt like I was more intrigued about what is going on. Like, I want to know what happened, like why is there a curse, why are sisters dying out, because it is very suspicious that her sisters are dying. But overall I didn't really care much about the characters, and in this story it's definitely the characters that should be, I feel like, really carrying the story, because we're talking about dying and curses. So we have to care about the people that are dying, that might die, that are related to these people who are dying. So yeah, I rated this as a 3 stars. Again, I really enjoyed the mystery. I like the vibes, like the overall atmosphere of the story. The writing was really, it really gave off that creepy vibes. But overall, the characters fell flat for me. The plot is also fell flat for me. It's, I wanted it to be a little bit more complicated than it ended up being. But yeah, 3 stars. It was fine. If you can find, you are able to really empathize and sympathize with the characters in the story much more than I did, and maybe you will enjoy this a lot more. But overall, it was a pretty okay story. It had really good elements, but also really, underdeveloped elements of it. Alright, the next one that we're going to talk about is the last book in a series. That is the last book in the Inheritance trilogy. I have Omnibus, and the last book is called The Kingdom of Gods, and I really enjoyed it. Oh no, is that right? Yeah, The Kingdom of Gods is the last book in the series. So I have the Omnibus collection. I read all of this. Well, I read most of it in January. I didn't talk about this in January because I didn't finish the entire series during January. So the first book is The Broken Kingdoms, The 100,000 Kingdoms. And we're following Jenna, who goes to this castle palace, and there she learns that she is in the running to be the next heir for the Arameris throne. And the Arameris are like the leader in this country, or the royal family in this country, and she didn't know that she was part royal until her mother died, and she had to go to this castle and learn about her heritage. And she learns about this world, the court politics and stuff, and it goes so much more complex, and like it really grows from there. And that's one thing that I also observed in the first series that I read from N.K. Jemisin, which is the Broken Kingdoms, the Broken Earth trilogy. Yeah, the Broken Earth trilogy. Where it starts as one premise in the first series, and then it like really becomes complex as the story progresses. And much like the first series that I read from her, I find the first book to be very confusing. Like the entire first book, I was very confused. Like I didn't understand the world, and I didn't understand the magic system, and the gods and stuff. So I was very confused quite a bit what was happening. But as the story progressed, second and third books, I got much more used to the world. And the same thing can be said in the Broken Earth trilogy. The first book, the magic system and stuff, was a little bit confusing for me, and like the mythology and the legends and stuff were a little bit hard to understand, like grasp for me personally. A lot of people really love it, and I understand how, but for me, I just needed it to be a little less vague. But yeah, overall I really enjoyed this one. I rated the last book 4 stars, 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. My favorite book is definitely the last book in the series, because we are following the character that I really enjoyed right from the first book. Like, I find him very interesting. He's a god, and just his change and his growth throughout the last book, I really, really appreciated. So overall, I really enjoyed this series, and so I definitely will continue to be reading the rest of the books in the series, the rest of N.K. Jemisin's books. I had to have The City We Became, but it is the first book in a series. So yeah, I binge read series. I wait for the rest of the series to finish before I actually try to read the first book. Anyway, the next book to finish is Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This is pretty popular-ish. This is a very short magical realism contemporary story. We are following, our main character's name is Lily, as she gets hired by an old friend of hers from college, Madison, to take care of her stepchildren, twins. And they are twins who, if they get like really emotional, whether it's good or bad, they combust. That's like their they see it as more of a condition. So, and it's very short, it's very quick to read. Like, I read it pretty quickly because again, it's short and it's really easy to get through. And we explore quite a bit of things in here. We explore the friendship between Lillian and Madison, and like how their friendship started, and the relationships, and how that has changed during a particular moment in college, and pretty much kind of set them into the paths that they have in present day. And then we also are following the relationships that Lillian has with the twins, and the other child that Madison has with the twins' father. And it's so emotional to read because the twins were secluded from everybody else, like society. They were hidden away with their mom, who was very mentally unstable, and so they grew up with that kind of guardianship. So they have a very skewed kind of view in terms of guardian and parents and love and comfort and kindness. And so it's like they've learned to rely on each other, especially about the fact that they randomly combust when they get very, very emotional. So I really enjoyed this. I rated this a 4.75 stars. I really enjoyed following the relationships that Lillian forms with the twins, and just the twins themselves. Like, that they deserve love, and they crave love because the kids are like 6 years old, I believe, if I remember that correctly. So they're very young and they're very impressionable. And so having been in an environment where it's not like a very good environment for children, it's not good for them, obviously. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. 4.75 stars. Very emotional. The next one that I finished is Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. This is a adult YA. I'm not sure. I would say it's more of a YA. It doesn't really have very heavy topics to it. It is gruesome because it is fantasy horror, and we are following, I'm pretty sure you've heard about this, we are following a group of women who forms this book club to read about, you know, books that they want to. And one day they invite, or one of the groups, or one of the members, Patricia, same name as me, which is very rare, by the way. I don't really read a lot of characters with the same name as me, whether they're main characters or, you know, side characters. Anyway, she invites this new neighbor that they have over to their book club, and the book club is mostly, or they're all mothers, and so they invite him to this book club, and she started slowly realizing maybe there's something weird about this person, and she started saying that maybe he's a vampire. So she tries to figure out who he is, and, you know, the threat that he poses, and she tries throughout the book to protect her children and her community as well from this vampire. And there's a lot to unpack here in the story, but again, I really enjoy this one. Did I say what I rated this? I rated this a 4.75 stars. I really enjoyed this one. The characters are very flawed. To be honest, this is set in the 1950s, if I'm remembering that correctly, in the South. They're very conservative, and it deals with, also talks about race, because she starts getting suspicious about this person when there's a lot of children who start going missing, but they're in the black community, and so not a lot of people are paying attention to it because of the community that the kids come from. And so it talks about, you know, family and community, and just the friendships between the women here in the book club, and, you know, what it takes from mothers to protect their children especially. So I really enjoy this one, and I really appreciated how dark it got and how badass the women here got. So I really enjoyed that part by the end. So yeah, that is it. That's that for the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. That's a really long title, by the way. Alright, the next one is Almond by Sohn Won-pyung, translated by Joosun Lee. This is a book that I have been wanting to read for a while. This is about a character we're following. I forgot his name. He suffers from, what's a term? I need to know the exact term. Alright, got my laptop here. Okay, so this is telling the story of Yoon-jae, who was born with alexithymia. And alexithymia means that he has a hard time feeling fear and anger. So it's very important, like, these emotions are very important in terms of, you know, not just survival, but also in terms of social cues and stuff. So he has a hard time with that, and so he grows up being taught by his mother on how to read social cues in terms of, you know, facial expressions and what they say, and the tone of voices and stuff, and the words that they use, and, you know, him understanding different kinds of emotions that he has a hard time feeling. And so he has a hard time growing up, and his mother is very protective of him and very scared for him. And he also lives with his grandmother. His grandmother is more of the opposite of his mom in terms of him growing up. So for his grandmother, it doesn't matter. Like, he doesn't have to learn all this stuff, etc. Like, she just loves him for him, and he doesn't have to try so hard to learn all this stuff. We are following his story, especially after his grandmother and mother got killed in front of him by a man who was very emotionally unstable. So it happened right in front of him, and so suddenly he's alone, and he was like going to high school. So, you know, a lot of changes in terms of, you know, his environment, his body, and just him being a teenager now. So it's a lot difficult for him, and so we're following him as he goes through high school, and, you know, what he learns from these two people that he meets in high school. When he was actually 16 when his grandmother and mother died in front of him, and it was on his 16th birthday too. So it was very hard to read, honestly. It took me a while to kind of absorb what happened and kind of get myself together after reading that part of the book. So he meets this boy named Gon, who he learns about has a very opposite personality to him, or very opposite of him, in terms of that Gon is very, very emotional. He's quick to anger, and they form this unlikely friendship together. And he also meets this girl, who from her he learns, you know, love and caring for a friend, etc. But with Gon, he learns about friendship as well. So yeah, we follow him as he discovers love and friendship. It's a very hard book to read, honestly, but I felt like it was a very important read. It's a very important read for people, a lot of people. we are following a character who doesn't feel fear and pain and anger. We follow his perspective, and we follow as he sees, Gon being angry, Gon being afraid, and Gon making choices that for him he doesn't really understand, and also experiencing more about life from these two people that he meets. So yeah, I rated this a 5 stars because I really did enjoy this one. Like, it's very short too. It's like 270 pages. Yeah, so that is Almond by Won-pyung. Alright, next one that I finished is Things in Jars by Jess. This one is a historical fiction fantasy / mystery story. It has a lot of different genres in here. This is set in Victorian London. We are following Birdie Devine, who is a female detective, and she stumbles upon this case where a very rich, influential person's hidden daughter, gets kidnapped, and she was hired to find daughter. And so she learns more about like the underground London and the secrets of this underground London and the secrets of this family, why this daughter is hidden, and why the daughter was kidnapped in the first place. So at first, this one was very confusing to read. The magic system isn't very much explained. This is more of a magical realism type, so you have to kind of have suspension of disbelief and kind of just go with the flow and the elements of magic in the story that are not fully explained, so you just have to go with it. So I think that's why I was a little bit confused in the beginning of this series. Thankfully, I listened to this in audiobook as well, so I was like reading it while listening to it, and I rated this a 3 stars. I really did enjoy this. I just felt like we could have explored more of the kids' story, because I feel like we stumbled upon a lot of different characters in this hidden world, hidden underground London, that we kind of got a little bit of, but not enough, or just it made it a little bit more complicated, but it didn't really elaborate on it, So yeah, I did enjoy reading this, and I felt so much for the kid who was kidnapped, because she went through a lot. So that was really horrible. So yeah, 3 stars. Things in Yours by Just Kid. Alright, next one. So we have 3 books in a series of companion novels I read for this month. I specifically read this series because of, February being, the month of love, Valentine's Day, etc. So I read the Love and Gelato series by Jenna Welch. So I read Love and Gelato, Love and Luck, and Love and Olives. And I rated them all 4.25 stars. 4 stars. So I really enjoyed the series in general. My favorite is probably going to be Love and Olives. I really enjoyed the father-daughter dynamic and the exploration of Atlantic's. Yeah. So Love and Gelato, we are following our main character, whose mother died from cancer, and so she spends her summer vacation in Italy with his mother's friend, who she believes is her father. And so she gets to know her father. She gets to know the love story of her mother and her father, because her father was absent for the entirety of her life. Like, she didn't know he even existed. Like, she didn't know he existed. She didn't know that he was alive. She only knew that she only found out about him when her mother died, and told her that she wanted her to spend time with him and live with him if she wanted to at the end of the summer vacation in Italy. And they live in a cemetery. It's not very creepy. Well, it's a little bit, but it's more of like a US. It's like it's an American cemetery, if I remember that correctly. So yeah, and she also has this journal that her mom had when she was in Italy studying art. And so she learns about, the love story between her father and, what really happened between the two of them, and why they were so estranged, and why it seems like the father, or the guy, is such a good person in general. He didn't seem like the kind of person who would not know about her and not do anything about it. So yeah, she learns about that. And again, I rated this a 4.25 stars. And then we have Love and Luck, the next book in the series. Okay, we are following Addie, who is in Ireland for her aunt's over-the-top wedding, and while there, she was supposed to spend time with her friend. Her brother sneaks out and she catches him, and she decides to tag along with him and his friend, his Irish friend Rowan, as like a blackmail type of thing. Like, I won't tell mom that you left, and we were supposed to spend time with our close family friends, but I'm gonna come with you, etc. And so they go to this adventure, and we learn about the relationship between her brother Ian and how that has changed after what a certain thing happened in school. Like, we didn't know about it until the end, what really happened and what changed about the relationship, because they used to be very, very, very close. They're like twins, and they're like each other's best friends. And but this thing happened, and suddenly they're like enemies of each other, or they don't like being in each other's presence. So we follow them, and of course there's romance between Rowan and Addie, and I really enjoyed it. The next one, the last one in the series, again, is Love and Olives. We are following Olive, who vacations to Greek after her father invites her to Greece. Did I say Greek? Greece. After her estranged father who left her after the divorce and goes back to Greece to find or to do a documentary with him about Atlantis. And so she has this really broken relationship with her father. Her father, she grew up hearing about him talk about Atlantis, and learning about Atlantis from him. They have a very close bond. They had a very close bond, but then her parents separated, and he moved back to Greece, and he didn't talk to her for years. And then a few months before he invited her over to Greece, he started sending her postcards and then invited her over. And so she learns more about her father and what has happened during that time that her parents separated, and why her father didn't talk to her, and why suddenly he's inviting her in this Atlantis documentary. And she's very skeptical of the existence of Atlantis. Like, for her it was a childhood dream. Like, for her it was an idea that she had as a kid, and as an adult Atlantis doesn't exist, etc. So yeah, we follow her as she learns more about her father, but also of course there's romance. What I really enjoyed about this book series, the Love and Gelato series, is that it's not just about romance, it's a lot about family too. It's like I want to say 70% family, 30% romance, maybe 50-50. Some people will argue, but I definitely say my favorite is Love and Olives, Love and Luck. Actually, you know what? Love and Luck is very close with each other. There's an element in Love and Olives that I felt very uncomfortable with, so that's gonna be talking points for me. But yeah, I think Love and Luck, I'm gonna change my mind. Love and Luck is my most favorite one, but Love and Olives is the longer one, and I really did enjoy the exploration of Atlantis in that city. Maybe it's because the romance separated me. I really enjoyed the Atlantis aspect of it. But yeah, Love and Luck I really enjoyed too. Love and Gelato is my least favorite. I felt like it's in a way a little bit underdeveloped, but still a really enjoyable read. Yeah, and again, I really love the family aspect exploration in this romance novels as well. Alright, let's move on to the next one. My throat hurts. I've been talking quite a lot. Okay, the next one that I read is Winterwood by Shea on Earnshaw. This is a witchy book. It's a gothic fantasy, a little bit of horror. This is a standalone, which is fun, and I also have the Owl Crate exclusive edition with the blue sprayed edges and the white cover, which is so pretty, by the way. I really like this cover. Anyway, we are following here the story of Nora Walker. She's part of the Walker women, which in their city they are regarded as witches, and she saves this boy, Oliver Huntsman, who was actually the boy who went missing 3 weeks prior from this old boys summer camp that they had in the city as well. And so she finds him, and she starts forming this relationship with him, but also learning about what happened to him and what happened during that night 3 weeks ago when he went missing, and how he's alive all these weeks in the forest, in the woods, when you go into the woods, you usually don't come back out. It's a very dangerous woods, especially if you don't go in during a really good time of the month. Like, I think it's something with the phases of the moon. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I rated this a 4 stars, 4.25 stars. I did really enjoy our characters, and I was very intrigued in what happened back then, what happened during those 3 weeks, or that night 3 weeks ago that he went missing. Because apparently he's not the only one who went missing. There's another boy who died that night, and there's more to the story than what they know, because he doesn't remember what happened, and there are suspicious stuff or circumstances during that time. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I usually don't enjoy fantasy standalones that are this short, but I felt like it really did explore the magic system, and that in a way it made sense but also didn't. It's a witchy kind of magic system, so I kind of understood it. I had an idea on how it works, and the spell stuff and the casting and the full moons and the candles and you know, the herbs and this stuff and the rituals you have to do, etc. I really enjoyed reading about those. But yeah, Winterwood, I really enjoyed that one. Okay, the next one that I finished is the last book in the Shades of London series, and that is A Conjuring of Light by V. Schwab. I really enjoyed this one. I don't know what it is about. I think it's because I kind of lowered my expectation for this book, because the first two books I didn't really enjoy as much, or as much as I thought I would. I still really enjoy them and still really like the magic system, but I didn't care much for the characters. For some reason, in this book, I really cared about the characters a lot more. And obviously, you know, the magic system is so fun, but I felt like it's mainly because of the one character that we follow, that for some reason I'm just very interested in him. He's seen more of as a villain, you know, but I don't know, I felt like there's much more to his story. Like I was very compelled to read this book because I want to, you know, learn more about him and learn more about his story and his circumstances. And so I really enjoyed this one, the last book in the series. I rated this a 4.75 stars, 5 stars. I really enjoyed this one. Yeah, I feel like I would like first and second books more if I didn't have much of high expectation, maybe. But again, there are elements in the second book especially that I didn't really enjoy. I felt like we didn't really get much of the story and the characters there as much as I, you know, wanted to, as much as I prefer. So yeah, this is like action packed right from the get-go. It's like action all throughout. And yeah, I really enjoy this one. We explore more about the characters. We explore more about, you know, their secrets and their desires and their dreams, etc. And so I really like this. I really enjoy this. This, you see it? Okay, the next one that I finished is Take a Hint, Dani Brand by Talia Hibbert. I was supposed to be reading this. I was planning on reading this like earlier on the month, but yeah, I have a few tabs in here because there are a few moments in here that I really enjoyed and a few things that the characters said that I really enjoyed. This is the second book in the companion novel series, in the series Get a Life, or the Hibbert, the Brown Sisters series by Talia Hibbert. I really enjoyed this one. I felt like I enjoyed this a little bit more than Chloe Brown, because here we are following Dani, Chloe's younger sister. She's a professor, and we are also following Zephyr Ansari, who is a security guard in the school that she works in, or in the camp, in the building that she teaches in. And one day during their emergency drill, she gets stuck in an elevator, and Zephyr saves her, and she carries him like Princess Carrie style, and the students took a video of it and went viral on the internet, and people started shipping them. And Zephyr actually has this non-profit program or charity program that he manages, and it's not very popular. But when they started going viral, he started getting a lot of donations and a lot more like spotlight on his non-profit program. So he asks Dani to keep a fake relationship-ish, so that they can keep, you know, receiving donations and stuff for a while, just to get, you know, the word out there a little bit more. So they form a fake relationship, and Dani has been looking for a friends with benefit relationship person, because the last time that she had this friends with benefit, it didn't end well, because she doesn't like being in an actual relationship. She likes more of, you know, just sex stuff, you know. So she asked she's a witch too, like she asked this god of, you know, like love and fertility, etc., to give her friends with benefit. And the next day they have this one showing up and them going viral and people shipping them. So yeah, I really enjoy this one because we are also following a main character. Like the main lead is like a really big bully guy, because he used to be a rugby player. That's his non-profit program, taking care of the mental health of rugby players, or, you know, students who play rugby. So yeah, he's he's seen as like this really grumpy burly security guard, but in the inside he's like he's a true marshmallow. Like he reads romance novels. Romance novels. He loves romance novels, and just he's a pure marshmallow. And also he suffers from anxiety. And there was this one scene where he had a panic attack, and that was pretty hard to read. I constantly had to like kind of, you know, catch myself and like collect myself as I read that scene, because I had to have personal experiences with, you know, panic attacks. So it was pretty, you know, emotional to read, pretty difficult to read, but I really appreciated the representation that we have here of a main character who's a guy, a man. He's a really big, burly man. He's an ex-athlete who suffers from anxiety, who reads romance novels. And we have a main character who's bi, who doesn't care about relationships, who doesn't want relationships, who just wants to have sex. And I really appreciate that too, because a lot of people, when women are like that, they're seen as, you know, slutty and stuff, and it's like, that's natural. if guys do that, you don't have a problem. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Take a hint and brand. So I do have the next book in the series pre-ordered, and it's coming out very soon. It's coming out in a few days. I think it's coming out March 7th. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that because we have two main characters who are autistic. Looking forward to it. And we have just, I read the first chapter after this book, and I feel like I'm going to resonate a lot with Eve Brown because she likes to try a lot of new things, a lot of new jobs, and a lot of, you know, businesses. But whenever things go right, she gets scared, and so she panics and like stops it. Like she's tried so many things throughout the years, and she's always so good with them. But whenever she gets like very like successful, she gets scared and she backs out, which I in a way resonate a lot. Yeah. Alright, the next one that I read is the last one that I read for this month. Is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. I think this is my very first, no, hold on. I think I read one more book from her. So I read one book from Riley Sager that I didn't really enjoy a lot. I think it was Final Girls, was it? It's about this girl who survived in camp after her roommates went missing. Like she's the only one who survived, and you know, from their room or from their cabin. So yeah, I really did enjoy that one. I felt like I didn't get sucked into the story. Like atmosphere wise, it was cool, but like the writing and in terms of, you know, the intrigue, I didn't really have for that one. But Home Before Dark, I really enjoyed. I rated this a 4.5 stars, 4.25 stars. We are following here the story of Maggie Holt, who is used to having people like ask him questions about the book that his father wrote 25 years. The book that her father wrote 25 years ago about this house that they lived in for 18 days, saying that it's haunted, and they had to flee the house and leave after just 18 days of being there because it's haunted. So for her, she doesn't remember any of it. Like she doesn't remember being haunted and being in the haunted house and being scared, etc. So for her, it's all a lie. And for years she has been asking questions about it and being like, and her parents are just like, don't want to talk about it, especially her mother, and her parents actually divorced. So 25 years later, her dad died from cancer, and she inherited this house at the Bainbury Hall, which she thought that the parents had already like sold. But apparently her dad has been taking care of it for the last 25 years, and now she's inherited after she died, part of his will. So she goes back to Bainbury Hall with the intention of flipping the house because she's an interior decorator, interior designer. So she had the intention of flipping the house and selling it and maybe looking for a profit for it. But as she goes back, she starts discovering more about her father's book and why her father wrote it as a nonfiction about their time there and what really happened during that time, if it's true that there is someone haunting. And there are definitely lots of questionable things happening in this house, with the chandelier turning on and off randomly and a photograph playing the same song for every time. And then there's also, you know, sounds and creaks and just the house being generally feeling like it actually is haunted. So she learns more about this house and what really happened during that time that they stayed there for like, I believe it is 18 days or like 14 days, something like that, in Bainbury Hall. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I'm a scaredy cat. Like I get really sucked into these kinds of stories. That's why I had a hard time kind of getting myself to read it, because as much as I am intrigued, I'm also it did a really good job in like pulling me into the story and into that moment. And there were just a lot of things happening in this house. It was so creepy that I just didn't want to read more. So yeah, that is it for this video. I've been talking for a while now, but I felt like I did a lot of a better job, especially like talking about 13 books. We're at the 45-minute mark, at least, not yet an hour. So yeah, those are all books that I read for this month. Hopefully the next one is going to be a really good month as well, but I'm not really wishing that I would read like 10 plus books next month. I just want to read and have a good time reading and read a lot of really good books. Much like this month, I felt like my general rating for the books for this month is like 4.25 4 stars, so which is really good. So yeah, that is all the books that I've read for this month. If you guys have read these books as well, or if you're looking forward to reading them, please let me know down below your thoughts and what you're looking forward to reading if you are going to be reading them. And yeah, I will see you guys on my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!